Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are here for Valhalla League on your Sundays as usual. It is Crowned Hound and Desto, the goats, on your casting desk. And as always, we have the lovely and beautiful Phoenix piloting us through today's game. Desto, how you doing, man?
Hey, fantastic. Definitely good to be here and see this game should be an interesting one. I was going to get more into it, but Picks and Vans are already firing off with a Giannis fan on the left side and a T-Met on the right side. I mean, two Premier Mages, nothing much more to say about that. Both of these gods very strong in both of the aspects. Giannis brings a lot of that global pressure and just general pressure in mid with how much clear he has able to farm around the map, and T-Met's T-Met, so not
yeah,
a ton more to say about that one.
yeah, nothing more, man. Interesting going into these games today. Morgan Le Fay is open and free to play, and just as I say that, she gets taken off of the board. Now that does open it up too, because there are a lot of still premier picks that banning a god like Morgan still leaves open for teams. I mean, there's still the Gilgamesh. Odin has been very prevalent in these games as well, especially at a higher level of play. So it's really interesting to see where these kind of mindsets go for these Odin teams. And we see Tsukiyomi and Chernobog taken off of the board. Do you think Chernobog is a warranted ban in something like this in comparison to, I don't know, something like a Heimdall or even something like a Rom in this position?
Me, it feels almost more like a target ban. I know that these teams scrim each other a lot, so maybe this is just something that Kittens Women's fancy. I personally probably prioritize Chernobog in the top three. I think there are other hunters that definitely are more up there on the list, but obviously I'm sure Far Out has their reasons behind banning it. But as you said, with Morgan Le Fay on the table, whether they're planning on taking away or not prioritizing it, a lot of picks are getting through, namely these top three. Sobek, Soul, Gilgamesh, these are all picks that very
Top
often were
four.
banned in the top three. Top
Tremble
four,
beneath the
Umoja as well,
waves.
locked in almost immediately. Yeah, that's
It is
something that just
time for
happens
some
when you have a
fireworks.
new god put into the mix, especially god that is considered very, very strong like Morgan Le Fay. Umoja, Gilgamesh, Sobek, and Soul. Even just a week ago, it's hard to imagine any set would ever have a top four as strong as this one.
I would agree with you. I do think Gilgamesh Umoja probably inarguably the best two frontliners that you could have, whether or not that Gilgamesh goes into solo or jungle, he still brings that presence to him. Now, combine that with a Baba Yaga in the mid lane, like that god just does damage. That's all that god does. And it only gets worse as the game goes on. So it's going to take a lot of kind of dancing on eggshells around this Baba Yaga in order to find an opportunity to go in. And you still have to get past all that beef up front. But to round out the top first phase of these P's and B's, the Finmir locked in, probably going into the jungle. We've seen a lot of success with this god in the jungle in comparison to a solo pick. And I actually really do like it. You have Gilgamesh, Umoja without CC immunity, very easy picks to just grab and take off of the board right at the beginning of the fight. And with that, P's and B's are kind of rounding out to an end in this phase two. Bans Set, Raijin taken off, and Osiris.
Yeah, and already here, I think I can kind of see a little bit of the identities. Far Out's already looking a lot more team fight orientated, obviously with Umoja Walls being able to lock people in and how strong of an ability Wings of Shamash is in controlling these team fights, zoning, and just creating a lot of damage. On the other end, Sobek Fenrir, that seems a lot more single target on my end, just trying to kill people. But as you see, Odin on the other thing, and Danzabora,
Oof.
once again, maybe Danzabora not necessarily team fight, but Odin as well. I mean, they have a lot of big circles on Far Out, or I guess in Umoja's case, big walls, and Odin as well. It's gonna be hard to get through all those circles, man. I mean, with Odin Umoja already locked in, that's a little bit spicy hovering that Cupid there.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
with all these big circles, Phantom's gonna be really big. I can already tell. Yeah, so Big circle comp on the other end, and that's hard to deal with. That's downright oppressive, the amount of team fight presence that Far Out is going to be able to bring as long as they can coordinate this properly. And a Merlin and a Nike to round off the draft on the other end.
Usually the go-to mentality when playing Smite is that you can never go wrong with big circles, right? You're always going to hit somebody with a big circle. So I mean, Far Out sticking to that strategy, man, and it is perfect. This draft is just downright impressive what they were able to get. And on the other side, like you were saying, I think it's more of a pick-oriented comp. You're single targeting just one person, one high priority target, and you're immediately trying to put yourself into a power play. You're trying to use that numbers advantage. But once we start getting into these 5v5 fights, I don't know how well that's going to stack up against this Far Out draft.
I mean, if I'm on Kittens of Mittens and I'm looking at that draft, like, I'm just wondering how I'm going to win a team fight. I mean, as you said, Baba Yaga does so much damage, and essentially with the amount of peel and just disruptive ultimates that's on Baba Yaga's side, it's going to be really hard for her not to free cast. She's already such a hard god to lock down when she goes into that home sweet home. She's super tanky and feels really, really hard to kill, and with that much around her, I mean, this Baba could be huge. This could be a lot of damage coming through. I feel like Kittens Whitman's almost has to pull out an early lead here with this aggressive comp they have. Soul, even though she does have that late game that does as much as it does, I think early game with that passive online can catch a lot of pressure. Obviously, Fenrir is Fenrir that can look to pick out a lot of early kills here, and I think that's pretty much exactly what they're going to need to do, especially around this Fenrir and Sobek, just trying to get early pressure and just maintain a lead and suffocate them, because the one problem with Baba Yaga is she does take a while to get online. Obviously, the boots change is heavily in her favor, allows her to stack those stacking items much, much faster, but she does need some time to get online, and I think that's pretty much the one ticket that they have to catch ahead in this game and get them where they want to be before these team fights start.
I'm in agreement with you, man. That this Baba Yaga is essentially their ticket to that late game just powerhouse. They do have a very good team fight oriented comp, but that mid 3v3 with Baba Yaga being in it, that skirmish 3v3 that we always see in that mid to late game transition, I do think that Kittens with Mittens has the advantage on that. I think with the amount of disruption that they have just in those three characters is very impressive. So it's a mind game, right? It's always a chess game when we get into competitive Smite. And I do think both of these teams have a lot of heavy hitters to go into this. And we're coming over to the duo lane to get a glimpse of the beginning of this chess game. Now, Soul is something that we've seen come back into the meta pretty heavily since the boots change. And I do think that I think a lot of teams haven't really been practicing it as of late in about the last season or so, just because of she fell off and a pluck comes through, Understar plucked back into the Soul Heart Bomb Lance, but both teams just looking for poke and a beautiful Stellar Burst. Kittens with Mittens duo lane seem to kind of be clicking a little bit more synergy there.
Yeah, they're just using that good early pressure. When you have a Sobek in lane, I mean, that's just a classic. It's really rough to always lane against a Sobek, because I mean, it's anytime that plucks up, there's kill pressure, no matter what. So playing around that's very, very tough, and it's good that they're utilizing that early Sobek pressure to get a little bit of poke out over in that duo lane. But everybody relatively safe right now. Nobody pulling out an extreme lead. And what you said about that 3v3, I entirely agree. And Sobek's a lot of that. I mean, Sobek and Fenrir, as soon as these get online with ults, it's going to be really, really hard to live in that 3v3. I mean, when Sobek's constantly plucking you and Fenrir's constantly ulting you, they're going to really have to watch their positioning as soon as it gets into that mid-game phase to make sure that there is no picks coming out on the side of Far Out.
Yeah, and we haven't really mentioned this up until now, but we keep talking about that pick comp. 5 sets of beads on the side of Far Out to try and mitigate a lot of that early pressure that we're saying that Kittens with Mittens needs to implement. And I just think that's a very smart move. Instead of trying to go for, you know, a lot of early kind of team fight oriented relics, just play it safe, go with the beads so you can get out and maybe look for a counter initiate. I love that from far out. Zero hesitation with it.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what you need to do. You know that, I mean, it's pretty much just objectively a better team fight / late game comp, and they obviously know that, so just making sure that the survivability is there so that they can get to that stage of the game and not get picked off early is definitely going to be a really smart play on that side. And also, as highlighted by Nike, we see that Fighter's Mask and a lot of pressure come out solo. Kojiro with the solo kill right off the bat. Not taking any time at all. 3 minutes into the game shows why Odin's a top pick. And honestly, Odin seems to be a top pick mostly because of his team fight presence, but he's making it work in lane as he's going to get the early first blood on the side of the solo lane.
Man, that's just a classic case of Odin go burr. Like, there's nothing you can do about that. Like, his pressure in lane is ridiculous with that multi-tier, multi-damage stun that he's able to throw out. And the shield just Goomba Stomp combo that god has is probably one of the highest damaging early abilities in the game. Right? We're not talking about ults. We're just talking about synergized abilities. That Odin jump shield combo can do half of a squishy's health at, like, level 3. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely, that bird bomb combo just eviscerates someone, and not to mention, he just got level 5 first there. As soon as he hit level 5, he immediately drops that cage, and also, as Phoenix has been highlighting, the Fighter's Mask, Nike has no prots whatsoever into that fight. I do not believe she had that Warrior's Axe online yet, so having 0 protections in lane, Odin's just gonna kill you. That's just kind of the way it works. But I mean, in all fairness, though, I don't actually necessarily hate the Fighter's Mask. I do think Fighter's Mask into Warrior's Axe is actually a very potent start right now because of how strong Fighter's Axe upgraded is when you get to that Sundering Axe late game, the amount of poke that you can bring, especially with Nike 1. But obviously it can struggle with that because even with all that power, she wasn't able to gain enough farm and enough pressure in lane to get level 5 first, and you see how it turns out sometimes not having any protection.
Yeah, and I think what happened there, right? Like, her jump was up. She was going into, I can never remember the name of the ability, but she was channeling the 1 to clear the wave, right? Rend, thank you. Channeling Rend into the wave against an Odin. Like, you're leaving yourself vulnerable and you're standing into a minion wave. So you're taking damage because the Odin got hit by it, both from minions and from him. If she had used the jump to knock him out of that stun, I do think there was a fighting chance there for her. But you absorb the stun damage, you're taking minion damage on top of that, and it left her too vulnerable. Without those prots that you'd mentioned, you need to play those first 5 to 6 levels very carefully, a lot more careful than you would normally see it, and I just think it was a little bit of a misplay.
Is gonna get dragged. Dento's gonna get dragged back into whatever, but a great Umoja 3 is actually gonna bring him right back into the action. Umoja ult comes out to zone them out, and a great save by Understar there, just keeping his jungler alive. Not a bad idea by the Fenrir, but just really good counterplay by that Umoja. I really like the use of that 3 to make sure that the jungler stays back into the side of safety.
No, absolutely. And Understar has made this transition from solo into support, I think, very well. Now, not too big of a differentiation in playstyle, but you are kind of a lot more focused on peel than you were diving, right? Like, that's the main mental difference when it comes to making that transition. But frontline suits him. I mean, he's been doing it very well, and putting him on a god like Umoja, where he really gets to show off his technical skill, I think is very good.
Absolutely. He's, yeah, I mean, over the season, they are currently 3-1 in the standings, and he's made a fantastic transition. Normally, there is a little bit of that learning curve / phase where they have a rough start, but honestly, right out the gate, he seemed to be transitioning very comfortably to this role. And, I mean, we saw it now just in that play. That's a very, very good, as you said, mechanical play on his end, and, it's always very, very nice when your support has super good mechanics. Because because a lot of times supports, it feels like almost they can get away with just as long as they have really good positioning and relic usage and whatnot. Not always hitting everything, but when they hit everything on top of that, that's amazing. And classic slap fight going over here in solo. I don't imagine there's gonna be another solo kill anytime soon, but good to see that. But over in the middle, a little bit of a grouping, but I think it's just a standard song and dance over in that 3v3, looking to see if they can get any pressure anywhere. Oh, Sobek plucks in a little bit off the mark. He is a bit out of position. He's going to get poked out, but he is Sobek, and he's very, very tanky. Ooh, but Defender are going to get 1 HP, gets absolutely blown up. 2 ults, 3 ults popped on the side of Overlords. Sobek very, very won.
And a lot of Merlin damage, just able to free cast while sitting in the back, utilizing the amount of pressure that his frontline was able to give him. But fortunately falls a little bit short. Just that combo, man, that team fight combo. They're sitting around level 8, level 10 right now, and it was just very good.
Ooh, but ADC 1v1 going on. The Soul ult just a little bit off the mark there. Pandas will be able to just walk out, and I think they'll just go back to farming. Nope, they're going to go right back into pressure. Heart Bomb a little bit off the mark. He's going to have to retreat off here, but actually the autos do connect here. But Soul is Soul. She's going to pop her one. She's going to heal. He'll most likely have to fall back and get pressure. But yeah, I mean, that's just Fenrir jumps in and then wins a Shamash right into home sweet home. Ton of burst, and those team fight ultimates that we were talking about come into play right there. Just a ton of damage. My man gets blown up before he can even do anything. And also, in all fairness, the Umoja ult that did come out was actually very good, but Sobek is Sobek. Very, very tanky. Hard to lock or kill that guy down at any stage of the game, and he does manage to go off immediately.
I do think what happened there, right? Sobek kind of gets a little out of position, misses the pluck. So it's kind of a, well, we need to follow this up no matter what goes down. And the Finner jumps in to try and make that happen. Very close to killing Dinta there with the Merlin damage and everything on it. Just wasn't able to make that trade. And yeah, like you were saying, Sobek very tanky. No matter what stage of the game he's in, he's a lot harder to lock down. But that's what you need to do as a team. You need to follow up on the rest of your team's calls, no matter what it is, and that's what happened. And I like the trust.
Yeah, it's definitely a nice mentality. You always want to make sure to follow calls 100% of the time, even if they don't necessarily go good. It's better than just sitting around and doing nothing. And gonna put a little bit of pressure in the solo lane on these back camps. But as Phoenix has highlighted, Gilgamesh into the second item, Ikavul. That's going to be a lot of early pressure. I'll give him that. I mean, that item can give you, what, almost 70 power when it's fully stacked? Assuming with the slow of his one, if he's
There's a team fight in mid.
Oh, there is a big group in Home Sweet Home, and Umoja going to be popped. A lot of big circles coming out here, as is to be expected. Krojibro makes the rotation in. Snooze, 1 HP on the right side, is going to get forced out here. Odin Kid is going to come out. The Phantom Veil is going to get them out for now. Some good poke onto that Sobek. 1 HP is going to get leaped on. Dento trying to secure the kill. Unfortunately, not going to be able to pick it up. A lot of ultimates used. And Phantom Veil on the right side. But, unfortunately, no kills on either side there. But the early presence is nice to see. You see these early groupings already. It's about 11 minutes into the game. Neither of the Scorps have been dropped.
And that's what I was about to touch on. After winning that fight, right, far out, there's 4 members grouped in mid. I would have liked to see a split. Solo jungle go and clear that right side fire Scorp. And then you have Pandas rotate over to help solo support mid over there on that gold Scorp. I think that was a very good case of we can secure both of these and get both of the neutral objectives already on their timers so that the next time that we do this, it's open.
Yeah, knowing you're winning these fights, it definitely should see some priority on these Scorpions. Make sure that these objectives are up, because as you said, with both of these Scorpions up, it almost feels like winning that fight didn't really do a lot. I mean, the grouping was good. They were obviously looking for a pick, which I think was just they're trying to gateway into something bigger. But on the left side, that looks like a solo kill coming from Pandas in the Rain.
Okay, guys, yeah, I get it. Chill out in the chat, please. I get it. I understand now. Thank you. I appreciate you all. You're all very lovely individuals.
I don't have the chat open. I don't know what they're saying, but whatever they're saying,
they're trolling me. At first, it was good information, and then it just turned into a troll. I appreciate you all. Thank you very much.
Trial and error.
I'm gonna time bugle out. That's what I'm gonna do. The next person that makes a comment, you're getting timed out. I'm abused. I'm abusing my powers. My caster powers.
Good old caster mod abuse.
Yeah, yeah. I can. But with that, Goldscorp is taken off of the board. Far Out finally removes that, gets their enhanced buffs on this left-hand side, and Gold Fury finally up as the first big neutral objective on the map, 13 minutes in. And we are seeing a little bit of a grouping over there.
Yeah,
And
is already making that 5-man rotation, and Understar a little bit caught out here.
Oh,
He's actually
beautiful.
going to fall at the beginning of this. Really good lockdown, knowing that Far Out wasn't all there at that moment. And I'm actually... I don't know if they're going to try to contest this, or they're just going to give it up. It is a 4v5 going into this objective.
It is a 4v5, but you still have all of your ults up. I do think this teamfight comp really does come into play here with Gold Fury and neutral objective just control. So we're going to just have to see somebody get in there, pull the trigger, and just go for it.
Absolutely, and it looks like that their new Dento on the left side is going to get heavily poked out. Krojiro putting a lot of pressure on this Fenrir. Fenrir going to have to use his ultimate to get out here. A lot of balls popping. Oh, Merlin actually caught out in the background. Dento coming in, trying to lock down this Merlin, but he is going to get picked out in the end, as well as the Baba Yaga. Low HP on both the Merlin and the Nike here, but it looks like they're going to get away. Pandas is going to pick up Raymond on the end, and Lucky going to get stunned out by that Odin 3 there. He is 1 HP, getting locked down by 3 people. I can't imagine him living here, but he's living for a very long time. I've had juke abilities, but Krojiro with the 3, gonna pick it up on the back end, and 2 for 2 on a 4v5 team fight, and they stop the objective, and they're going to start it up themselves. That's really good by Far Out. It looked a little bit rough in the beginning there when they had 2 people picked out, but now it's going well. But Mortimer going to be jumped in, but I don't think that's a good idea, my man. That Cupid is 4 levels above you. He is just going to shred you, and Far Out's going to secure that objective. Snooze is going to jump in, but I can't imagine much is going to come. But actually, the Merlin's going to fully initiate here. I am completely wrong, as he is going to blast through right here, and Snooze caught into the Odin cage, going to get kicked into the wall and deleted, taken out of there. Dento picks up a kill on the back end, and Merlin going to try to get collapse on. Burbomb doing his classic chunking damage here. He's just running away, but they are initiating hard on this. Krojiro deep in the backline, but they're just going to disengage here. Sobek probably going to look for a pluck here. A little bit too far out, nothing much they can find, and just good from Far Out for that entire engagement. Unfortunately, Understar just a bit out of position, able to get picked out in the beginning of that, but just a great response. A lot of those ultimates come out and they just do great damage. Krojiro also just did a fantastic job creating a ton of space, as well as Pandas doing all the damage that he needed to do there.
In the course of one elongated team fight, we did see Odin Cage come out twice. So at the very beginning of that fight to create the distance that you were talking about, and then towards the end just to get that last pick onto Snooze trapped into that that Odin Cage. And that early Iqval for Gilgamesh paid in dividends there. A lot of damage from those autos coming from him now. And
yeah, that's just what Odin brings. I mean, really good on him to start that with an Odin Cage and end it, as you said. That's not an ability that you really have to be that worried about holding, just because it is so effective. Making sure to put it out as much as possible, it just creates a lot. But yeah, just a ton of space created, and then Pandas in the Rain doing a ton of damage already, and another solo kill. Panda's putting on a clinic over here in the carry, just creating a ton of 1v1 pressure and just winning these 1v1s outright. I mean,
and Soul from behind is a hashtag feels bad, man. Like
that god feels awful from behind. All of that pressure that you get from that Soul passive normally feels so strong. You're feeling like you're doing so much damage. At that point, when you're behind, you feel like you need Soul passive just to exist, just to do anything. And it's not a good feeling.
No, and with that, Panda's sitting at 4-0-2. Beautiful all round play coming from far out. We are seeing a little bit of a 2v2 over here in the jungle, and we saw that knock up immunity there. Ha 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 ha.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
That's what the meme's about. I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna comment on it when you initially said it, but you know the chat has done it for me and then some. So
And
I'll just leave it at that.
just highlighted by the one and only Mr. Phoenix himself. Yamoja elects to go into a Spear of Desolation. A lot of pen, a little bit of cooldown for her as well. And I don't think that's a terrible way to build when you have this comp. Adding a little bit of extra damage into the Yamojo, just poke and overall damage in these team fights is not a bad thing to have. And I do think it's a decent pickup.
Honestly, I love that pickup a lot of times. When you can get away with getting one or two of those really aggressive items in support, it can pay out a lot. And as you said, I mean, I can't really say it any more than I already have. When you're already in a comfortable spot in these team fights, then might as well pick up that extra damage. Make sure that the damage that you're putting on the front liners trying to dive.
Oh,
but really good 3 to dodge out the Soul 2, and he's just gonna keep
Candace
walking
on the
at him,
hunt.
keep up your pressure. But Soul's ult is going to be used just to get out and try to survive, just making sure to maintain and keep that pressure. They have leads in almost every lane, other than actually, interestingly enough, Merlin has been finding a lot of farm in this mid lane, despite the amount of teamfight presence this Baba's been able to find is actually falling a bit behind on this pick. But everywhere else they have leads. 1 level in jungle, 1 level in solo, 2 levels in this ADC. Far out's looking really, really good, and as we said, you don't really like this comp, the odds of getting wins comp going into this late game, so definitely looking strong coming into this one. As there's going to be a small grouping on the left side, but probably not much going to come out of it. But the Oni Fury going to spawn pretty soon. We should see a team fight go on over there, as Oni Fury provides so much of that pressure.
Just to highlight again, the fire side Scorpion still not down at nearly 20 minutes. And I just think having fire as an objective at this 20-minute mark would be so heavy to just have on the map if you win a team fight at this stage, especially a convincing team fight at this stage. It allows you to go through so much more. There are 0 towers taken off the map right now, and having that objective available for the post team fight just grab would lead to so much more of a lead for either one of these teams. It would either give Kittens with Mittens a win condition to come back into it with the amount of structures they're able to take off of the map, and it would just accentuate that lead for Far Out if they were able to grab it. But Oni Fury, like you highlighted earlier, is
immediately Krojiro in the background creating space. Far Out's just going to pick that up before Kittensvin can even go in there. But Kittensvin trying to start a fight in the backline. Odin Cage is going to come out, lock a bunch of them in. Far Out says, no thank you, we're just going to walk out, and we have what we have. And another thing about that Scorp being down, most of the time in plays like that, Kittens with Mittens odds coming into that weren't very favored. I'd say it's about a 90% chance that Far Out gets that. When the Scorpions dropped, most of the time you can say, okay, we can't get this Gold Fury, let's just pick up Pyro, get some presence on our side. But now they're just going to group and get a Scorpion. That doesn't feel nearly as good to get in return.
Nope.
Sure, they can drop that, yes, the Pyro will be up in 30 seconds, but now Far Out can respond to that. Not having that Scorpion drop definitely just doesn't feel good for Kittens with Mittens. There's just no return play for them to make.
And you do have gods that are fairly decent at just soloing the Scorpions, as we do see a jump into the tower. Ormer caught out with the stun, but beautiful pluck sends him back. A lot of disruption used. Oh, what a beautiful drop kick sends the minion into Ormer to land that other stun, but just a lot of poke onto him right now is going to send him back to base. Now, this does open up a little bit of a window for this Far Out team to go ahead and grab that Pyromancer, and it looks like that's what they're going to do.
Absolutely, great pressure created on the right side. They pushed up a little bit far down that lane, and then immediately got punished by Dento and Krojiro, and they're just going to pick up more and more objectives. At this point, about a 5k gold lead on Far Outside. That's definitely feeling really good. 5.5k, that's a lot. That's definitely feeling great. And another thing to keep in mind, at 22 minutes in this game, this Fenrir, only level 15, just hasn't been able to find really anything throughout. And that feels really bad. Fenrir obviously known for that early pressure, the amount that he's able to do with that Brutalize. And when that doesn't happen and you're not finding stuff and you're playing on the back foot the whole time, he will, of course, always have his ultimate for the late game, able to pick somebody out and you know, potentially be a really good team fight tool. But I can't see Fenrir stacking up to Gilgamesh late game at
Over here
all.
on
And
the right
but over
side.
here on the right side, there is a little bit of a grouping. There's going to be a 3-man on both sides. Odin Cage going to come out. Nike ult as well. Fenrir ult is going to pick one up, but he's just running around inside of the Wind Shamash, taking a ton of damage. Dento, though, threaded by that Merlin, is going to be 1 HP, going to get jumped on and taken out. Home Sweet Home popped, going to throw a lot of damage on the back end of that, but Ortimer going to be able to get out of there, and good job by Kittens of Mittens picking up a kill right there. Blocking out Dento and just spreading him out before he's able to do much. And that Merlin actually getting a ton of work done in this mid lane, just doing so much shred damage. Dento practically disappeared as soon as Merlin came into the equation.
And that's what this comp lends itself to. You have to single out essentially the sick weakling out of the herd and just act like a pack of wolves. You need to be able to have that single target just disruption. And it all relies on this Sobek. This Sobek has to find the pluck. Merlin abilities sent into 3 members, tickles them just a tad, but we are seeing a 5v4 grouping right now. We'll see if Kittens with Mittens wants to pull this trigger and dive into it. Now, we do still have 2 ults on the side. Krojiro does have that Odin Cage along with a Cupid. Will do a lot, but Lucky.
Oh my god, just blowing up. So much damage put onto Lucky there. Sobek just disappears. I was talking about Sobek being tanky. Apparently, Far Out didn't get the memo. They don't care. They just absolutely obliterate him. And now what was a 4v5 is a 4v4 with, or 4v5 again, but on the side of Far Out, as Zento has responded, they're just going to go in all the way. They're fantastic ultimates on the side of Far Out. Completely locked in as Kittens with Wins, unable to get out there, and that is going to be great picks, and this Fire Giant should just be relatively free.
Oh yeah,
I don't on outside the zone, but there's no shot anyone's showing up to that. Fantastic Umoja ultimate with the Cupid ultimate, and what do you do in that situation? Understar also put out a really good Umoja 3 as well, so there was only one little spot that Kittens with Mittens could have possibly walked out of there, and that got Umoja 3'd out, and then they're slowed inside of that Cupid ult. Just nowhere to go, and they get blown up immediately.
Now, I do like the play that they do have here. You still have a tier 1 up in mid, and you're able to secure those right towers if you are Far Out here. With that 4-man grouping over there on the right side, this tier 2 should go down relatively for free with 0 consequence, and you're able to get another tower in mid and have the rest of your team rotate with you. That is just a very good heads-up play. Send your carry alone where you know that you have pressure on both sides, and you know that at least 3 members were coming back from the base, so there's only 2 that you have to look out for. And if I'm Far Out, I'm very comfortable with Pandas able to hold himself at least in a 1v1 long enough for you to come in, or even a 1v2 with the amount of just power that he has with that Fire Giant as well.
5-0-4, and as you said, in terms of 1v1s, I mean, we saw it during all the laning phase. Plus, 55 stacks on that Silver Branch. He has a lot of power. He is not too concerned right now. Just great presence coming out of that, and now the map is wide open. They have FG done. Gold Fury's up. There's a tier 2 and left. This should just be a free Gold Fury into a T2. Kittens with Mittens gonna regroup on the right side, try to whittle down some towers, do some return play. That is a pretty good response.
Yep, I'd agree.
To what is going on. Definitely good just knowing that there's no shot they can contest anything on the left side, so let's just give it up. Let's just get a T2 over on this right side, and yeah, they're just pushing it down. And
I 100% agree with this call. I think it's good for them to try and at least get some gold in their pockets to try and minimize the amount of damage this does. And Runeforged Hammer, highlighted by our one and only Phoenix, I think is a decent pickup. It allows the rest of your team to do more damage when you land that drop kick or that Winds of Samash. I do like it. It is very good.
Yeah, it's definitely not the most standard Gilgamesh build out there, but I haven't necessarily disagreed with any of these items. I think Ikavul was the only one that maybe had a bit of a question mark, but in these team fights he actually has been able most of the time to get those autos off in order to find value from it.
And if I'm not mistaken, the health is what leads to the extra damage on the one. So overall, Just anything in that tree, I think, works at least somewhat decent on Gilgamesh, just because it does lend itself to that extra little bit of damage that you're able to output with the what is the Sunforged Scimitar, I think is the name of the ability. And Pyromancer taken off of the board. All neutral objectives down, secured by Far Out. All Firebirds exposed. And if I'm not mistaken, it is health that lends that extra damage. So Runeforged Stammer, 250 health. No, I'm just talking about Runeforged Scimitar. Just gets that extra bonus damage on it with the health on any items. So anything in that hammer tree, I think, lends itself well to working with just overall Gilgamesh damage. So
Yeah,
not a
and
bad
lot of
pickup.
times, I actually quite a bit you see the Frostbound come out from Gilgamesh. I actually, in a competitive scene, I would prefer to see this Runeforge just because most of the time, there's not a lot of the time you're able to just sit there and auto. Like if you're sitting there autoing somebody with Gilgamesh down, where Frostbound's going to get any value, they probably should be dead anyway when you're in a grouped 5v5. So
true.
just getting that Runeforge out to make sure that you're just doing extra damage, especially as you said with that Winds of Shamash. I like the pickup. It's definitely nice. But we're going to see a small grouping going to the left side. They're just slowly pushing up these waves, making sure to get pressure in all of these lanes.
And I think right now in this stage of the game, what Far Out is looking for is that one person that just overextends a little too much to give themselves a wide enough opening to safely siege one of these Firebirds. Or another thing that they might be doing is just setting up, looking for the firefight. They know that they can take it. They're up by nearly 13,000 gold at this point, and all of your builds are finished. All of the starters are finished, so you have that extra little bit on the back of what you're trying to do, and they've been doing it very well. Now, if I'm on the side of Kittens with Mittens, I'm trying to do the same thing. I don't know if staying away from this fire giant is the best call. We do see 3 people in that left-hand side rotating now over to it, but you are going to get picked up by minions. They're going to know that you're there, and they're going to be looking to get you at this choke point. Like we're seeing, it's an ambush.
It is an ambush. And
Beautiful.
It's going to bring somebody in, but it's just going to be leaped out immediately. And yeah, going into these firefights, Kittens with Mittens are kind of just walking on a nice edge with that Odin cage, with that Yamoja ult. If anybody's out of position for even a second, they are going to get caught. They are going to get killed. So they really have to mind their positioning, as they're just going to put out some poke on top of the Sovik here. But good Merlin abilities in the back is going to cause a little bit of damage. But Yamoja's going to do her signature click the 2 button. Make everybody on her team just a little bit healthier than they were.
And
Ortimer caught out on the side is actually going to take a decent amount of damage. Lucky's a little bit caught out here. He's going to get caught out by everything. Just a little bit rough on the positioning there. They're going to catch that immediately. Crojiro in the back line doing great damage, but a fantastic Yamoja. Everybody's getting forced out. 1 HP, Bird Bomb, and the Heart Bomb is going to put up, but a quick pickup on the Odin 3 is going to kill Ortimer there. And now they're just going to go straight to the Phoenix.
Yeah, they have nothing to be afraid of here. Ult's exposed. But one of the ults that you have available is on Merlin. Not a lot of going to be done there. And this Firebird is being dwindled down about half HP. Now Merlin makes his rotation back in. Oh no, Dinto!
Be picked out. Draugr actually gave a lot of value there, I want to say. When they had all 3 people on it, it was a little bit tankier. They do get the bird, but that soul ult is actually going to do a lot. Stun out and ulted is the Nike going to be picked up and blasted immediately, just locked down and killed. Leaped in, thought they had a little bit of a play going, but there is still a numbers advantage on Far Outside, and I cannot even count the amount of Odin cages that have come out this game, but they are just causing absolute chaos each and every time that ability gets thrown out. I feel like it's pretty much just a death sentence this entire game. Yamoja is going to be used to zone out the people trying to get in from Kittens inside, but they won't be able to get close enough anyway.
And that is Enhanced Fire Giant, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't know, Enhanced Fire, one of the many assets it brings is no backdoor protections for the structures. So this Cupid is going to be able to do full, just ungodly amounts of damage to the rest of these birds if that's the route they decide to go. Now, I do like the grouping coming from Kittens with Mittens going for this Oni Fury. You know that most of Far Out just did back, so you have a little bit of a window to go for this. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it uncontested or without consequence, because we do see just a turn and burn from far out rushing over there, and
They
it
are
will
going to
just
be
be a
able to get it.
disengage.
And to Kinsman's credit, they have been doing that all game, and I do like that. They have been playing on the back foot a majority of the game. However, they are not just killing over; they are making counterplay. At first, it was when there was that grouping in left from far out. They were able to get the towers in right there, knowing that they have FG and we're going to back and regroup after. They pick up the Oni Fury, but in the end of the day, it's EFG to Oni Fury. You take an EFG any day, and the
Absolutely.
Oni Fury waves aren't going to be able to do too much because the mid wave's going to get cleared out, the left's going to get picked out, and then there's fire waves on the right side. Oni waves aren't going to be able to beat that. And
Nope.
now just a grouping for this Phoenix defense.
Yeah.
EFG, as you said, if Pandas is able to get pretty much any autos off at all, he has 50. Well, this keeps going up, but the stacks on the Silver Wrench, he has so
Hunter
much
Scout.
power. He will do so much to this
Yeah, yeah.
Phoenix if he's able to get close here. The wave's going to push up. You might see an initiation right here as there is a small bit of a split in mid. But Krojiro going to start off this fight, getting deep down in there. But in the back, there is a Fenrirol actually pulling in Understar, but not much is going to come of it as Odin Cages popped out. A lot of ultimates coming out from the side. But Nodstung's going to be able to find, and a great Sobek Pluck's actually going to put Krojiro in a little bit of a rough spot. Winds and Shamash going to come out at the back, but Lanky is going to pick out Lucky, and Soul in the background, 1 HP. Snicks as well, not very healthy, and so much out of combat healing coming from far out. There's just not much that Kittens with Mittens can do here as they are going to rush up, and oh my god, the amount of damage. Raven and Orver put the 1 HP, Ortimer going to be put the rest. Titans wide open, and I think this should just be game with the amount of damage pumping out.
Yeah,
and man, what a comp from far out. I can't say it enough. They had so much team fight presence. They had these big circles, and something I didn't even get to touch on until right at the end there, that out of combat healing came into so much play. Kittens with Mittens played the beginning of that really, really well. They looked like they were almost prone to win that team fight, but as soon as it got just even a little bit of disengagement, Cupid 2 and Yamoja 2 just spammed everybody, able to get these health bars back. And then right back into it they went. They were able to get it as well. Nike went a little bit too far deep and just got absolutely killed out. And yeah, what a comp, what a way of playing it. And to me, I gotta point out the side lanes on the side of far out. I mean, Krojiro was creating almost infinite space. It felt like putting out these constant cages. Pandas in the Rain was just creating so much damage. I mean, I can't say much more than that. He was killing everything in his sight. He had fantastic play in lane, getting solo kills, and it did not stop when it came into the team fight stage. He showed just as much presence, getting great use out of that ultimate.
You know, something I want to touch on a little bit is I do think that having early anti-heal against a comp like that where you know there's a Yamoja and a Cupid. Now, granted, they are playing a team fight comp, so you know that probably won't come that heavily into play until those later stages. But even with that, I do think that having a Divine Ruin on that Merlin earlier, other than the 6th slot that he did pick it up in, would have been beneficial for them in the earlier stages of the team fights. And I know Phoenix loves anti-heal.
Loves his early anti-heal, that's for sure. But on you brought up the Merlin, and I will say on the side of Kittens with Mittens, Merlin in particular did do a lot of damage that game. He actually did have a lot of team fight presence throughout that.
Agreed.
Definitely signs of life throughout Kittens with Mittens, especially around the counterplay that they were able to make. For me, I feel like going into this game too, it's just we got to revisit the comps. I feel like you let too much go through on the side of far out, and you didn't get enough win conditions for yourself, especially around that team fight stage.
Now, I do think that with those top 4 picks, I don't know if I would change anything from either one of these teams. I don't know if you need to ban any other gods than you did. I do think the Chernobog ban was a little weird, and I know that was on the side of far out, but like you said, it might have been a targeted ban. But when it comes down to it, I think it just needs to be a shift of mindset for this Kittens with Mittens team. I think most of their mindset coming into this game and especially with the draft they had, was we're going to pick one person and immediately set ourselves up with the power play. And they didn't execute that. We saw a couple of at least attempts with it, a couple of missed Sobek plucks, but if you do that, you need just hard commit onto whoever, and they need to follow that call. We did see it against Understar about halfway through that game where they were able to just grab him, and then there's nothing he was able to do. And I think coming into this game, you need a little bit more of just a late game powerhouse than Soul. I don't know if Soul is the way to go. Raymond might be super comfortable on it, but I would like to see him on something a little bit more, I don't know, just traditional.
Yeah,
just traditional
as well. Definitely works out. Definitely not a bad idea by them, but unfortunately execution not fully able to come out there. But that was just, I don't know, that was just a great game on both sides. As I said, I definitely don't think Kittens with Mittens are out of this whatsoever, especially just because they did have a very down but not out mentality throughout the entirety of that game. They were trying their best at just making sure that they did what they could given the situation. So I'm pretty excited just to see how these comps turn out, what changes are going to be made. I mean, on the side of Far Out, I imagine a lot of the same. If they can get away with most of the picks they got, I don't think they're going to have any problem just picking those back up. But I am almost just super interested to see what the bans on Kittens with Mittens sides are going to be, what they thought was the big problems in that game that were really keeping them out from being able to be super effective into those fights. Because while they were a pick orientated team, the problem partly in that was that ooh.
No worries.
All right, well,
Artemis taken off the board. Artemis Soul already.
As Phoenix said, they have started up, so we are going to go into a little bit of a crunch rush time here. Most of the bans might not be in order, but this is generally what was happening and going on, what was banned here. And Odin, Soul, Artemis, Chernobog, Giannis, Tiamat. Now, Kittens with Mittens.
Is Kittens with Mittens order? Okay, so it is Kittens with Mittens over here with the Morgan Le Fay first pick. And on the other side, Far Out does draft that Yamoja once again, putting that in the hands of Understar. I do think he piloted that god very, very well. A lot of mechanical skill with the uses of the 3 and the River's Rebuke combo. And just, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Draft the Yamoja, you draft the Gilgamesh. 2 perfect picks that synergize fairly decent with each other inside of their just ult synergy with the Winds of Smash and the River's Rebuke. And on the other side, we do see just a complete deviation, and I do like the way that they did go. Morgan Le Fay, Ares, and Ratatoskr. I do think that mid 3v3 is very good.
I like the switch up quite a bit. Ratatoskr able to give more of that global pressure in the early game. I feel like he should be able to utilize and feel more presence overall. Morgan Le Fay just kind of excites me, to be honest. I don't like this god in my casual games. Please stop picking into my casual games. However, in a competitive setting, I have pretty much yet to see it at all. I believe maybe it got picked in one SPL game, but I didn't get around to seeing it. I'm excited.
They lost that SPL game.
Did they lose that SPL game? Interesting. So
yes.
I'm excited to see how this turns out. But on Far Outside, they are going to pick up the Guan Yu. More of that healing. I mean, it showed in that last team fight in the last game. They have something similar going on here. Yamoja, Guan Yu. Kittens with Mittens has to kill somebody in these fights. If a team fight skirmish happens, they have to get some picks, because if this fight stops for even a second, Far Out's going to be full HP faster than you can blink.
Yeah, she has like a 70+% win rate in the SPL. Thank you, Bro Taco. The one game I did see it played was Solar Scarabs against Valkyries, and Valkyries were able to pull it out when the Solar Scarabs did pick it. But complete deviation from the SPL here, back into our own little Valhalla League. The Guan Yu pickup, we're still waiting on the last pick on the side of Kittens with Mittens, but already 4 brand new gods for this squad, and I do think these gods do play very well in what they're able to do. I think Ares going up into a Gilgamesh or even a Baba Yaga is a very good pickup. You're going to force so much with that. It is pretty much just a beads bird whenever his ult is up.
Absolutely. I like the
I
counter.
like to call it the scorpion.
I also think Artio does very well into their comp, and especially when it comes to in lane. Obviously, Krojiro is able to find that early kill and find some early pressure in that lane. Artio just makes Guan Yu not feel like a character. She's gonna put up the cripple field. He won't be able to dash. She's gonna stun him as soon as he uses that Talu Assault. Guan Yu's definitely not going to feel good in lane, and she transitions into these team fight stages well. Gilgamesh not being able to jump, Baba not being able to jump, Guan Yu not being able to dash. Chiron as well, if it gets picked up, not being able to dash, although he will have the immunity in his one. I think Artio brings a lot more of that brawling team fight presence, while definitely Nike is able to get in there, drop that ultimate, and do stuff. Artio does have more just immediate burst damage that she can just get in there, cause a lot of disruptive CC. And Dunsborough going to be the final pickup on the side of Far Out. And as we said, I like the transitions from Kittens with Mittens. Completely different comp on their end. Absolutely going for a fresh, wiped, new identity. And I like this identity a lot more. I still see a lot more early presence on their side. And I still want to see early pressure coming out. But I do like the Rat more than I like the Fenrir. I think it's just going to play much better into that comp. I think On Her will give much more survivability in lane, especially against Danzabora.
I don't know if it's survivability. I do think Soul has a decent amount of just self peel with the use of the 3 and the self heal that she's able to get. I just think On Her really sets Raymond up to take those 1v1s a lot easier. Because even from behind, if you're 1 or 2 levels from behind, On Her with an Iqval is just scary. That God's passive mixed with Iqval and mixed with just the overall damage output he's able to bring on a single target. I think it lends itself well to the way the last game went and what Raymond wants to do this game.
Absolutely. I guess there's more just a phrasing error on my part. I more meant
you're good.
survivability in the 1v1 in terms of the fact that he'll be able to match that pressure and just fight back into the 1v1, whereas while as Soul just felt more on the back end for most of that game. But yeah, I'm just really excited to see this Morgan Le Fay. I kind of want to see where this is gonna go in these fights. I will say Morgan Le Fay into Gilgamesh does feel pretty good, just because when you get locked down by the Winds of Shamash and get dove on, you pop that ult, you have that CC immunity, and then you have that heal that's going to be healing you while you're exiting the Winds of Shamash. Definitely a lot harder to dive this time around compared to the Merlin, which was locked down relatively easily, just because while he does have that flicker, it doesn't flicker very far, and no escape on Morgan Le Fay, but so much self-peel coming out from that god. That knockup, that knock away, that self-stim of a little bit of speed, the fear coming out from her one. Obviously, I already highlighted the CC immunity in her ult. She's not hard to get to, but she's hard to kill once you get there.
Yep.
And that definitely is a change of pace from the Merlin.
Morgan Le Fay just has so much early damage output as well with the use of that Sigil Mastery, and just overall, the rest of her abilities hit like a truck. So I think in overall damage output, it's going to be fairly even. And a lot of those abilities aren't too much of a situational thing that you have to use in comparison to a Merlin. You kind of have to choose the correct stance and go from there. We're seeing a lot of aggression from Snooze in this lane now, getting the better of Gojiro, at least in that level 2 fight. A little bit of a differentiation from last game, and I do like it. I like what this Kittens with Mittens roster did change, and even though they didn't change that mid 3v3, I still like the side lanes being changed for this team.
And yep, that's just what I was talking about during P's and B's. Artio makes Guan Yu not feel like a character, especially in lane. I can't imagine Krojiro is going to get any pressure here. I think Snooze is pretty much going to be keeping him under tower for the majority until these team fights start. And this mid 3v3, again, I think Morgan Le Fay does add a lot to that with what you're saying, that Sigil Mastery. I think just with the amount of, like, that fear on that low of a cooldown if they're going to be scrapping in these 3v3s, it's going to provide so much poke. If they try to hard initiate on her, it's going to be so much. But the chains are going to come out. A great jump in an impale into the wall. Panda's going to be poked out low, but return damage on the Raymond. Both carries going to be looking rather low.
Here's where the healing from Yamoja kicks in, though. That healing on top of the Danzaburo whenever he wants to use his 2 will also get that heal.
And just look at him throw those autos. Not much more to say about that. Just getting them right up. But a lot of pressure coming out of this dual lane here. Ooh, almost a great stun into that obelisk. Not quite able to find it. A little bit of presence over in that solo lane. Snooze is going to be wise to it, though. Make sure to back out and not get caught out fully there. And looking to be a little bit of grouping, but I don't think too much is going to come of this. I think both jungles are just going to retreat, go back to their farm pattern. But I could be wrong. Ormer pushing up a little bit here. Maybe looking for the blue buff invade. Okay, Dento's not able to quite make it there. A lot of pressure coming out.
He's right behind him.
This should just be free for them. That's just a ton of damage, and that's just from the early pressure that the RDO brings. Just goes a little bit off his farm pattern, not going for his speed right away, and not much Krojiro or Dento can do about that one. Just they're going to walk up and take it, and I like that priority right there. Krojiro had so much effectiveness on that Odin last game, and now they're just trying to snuff him out, make sure that he is not able to play the game super effectively. Definitely a good strategy coming into this one, especially when they know that their duo lane already has so much pressure. Now it's pretty much a flip from the last game. Now Kittens with Mittens currently have both of the pressures in both of the side lanes, and that definitely wasn't how the game was going last time. So I'm excited to see how that translates going into the mid and late game here.
Phoenix, can we head over to the duo lane really quick? Okay, so they didn't end up stealing that purple buff. So each team does get their purple buff, but if I'm not mistaken, Kittens with Mittens were able to secure both of the alpha harpies. And I do like that play. I think it's just a little bit of those micro plays in these games that do end up pulling an advantage heading into the mid game for these teams. Now you should see Raymond hit level 5 off of this next wave, and I wouldn't doubt them just going all in on top of, honestly, on top of Understar. I do think it would be good to just send it.
They are both level 5, and you're going to see the immediate retreat coming up. But actually, Panda's going to get caught out here. The beads is going to be forced. Obviously not able to get the kill there, but having that beads down is a great relic to have down, especially when you have a Ratatosker. As soon as he gets that ultimate up, Danzaburo is going to be a really big target to make sure to lock down with that one. And just so much pressure. Getting the waves thrown out of them right now, yep, they're just not going to be able to get too much farm coming over here. Dento not in position. Actually, engagement in solo lane. Krojiro falling low right now.
And Dento able to pick up
Dento
Snooze.
actually gets Snooze. They get the better end of that fight. I'm not entirely sure what happened, but that is wild. I would think at this stage of the game with that 2v2, Kittens with Mittens almost certainly would have had it. But now, right back into the dual lane as we have a lot of pressure. Mojo coming out. Rocket coming into the Raymond is not quite able to get the pillar to stop it. Just one auto away. Uses a 2. He's so low. They're both so low. He's able to finally pick up that final auto. Raymond coming over. And I was just talking about how Kittens with Mittens had pressure on the side lanes. And right away, the script gets completely flipped.
Caster's Curse, man.
Absolutely Caster's Curse there, as Far Out able to find kills on both ends. They win the 2v2 over and right, and they win the 2v2 over and left, and right away, that went from a situation where Kittens Mittens was looking really good, and now they're right back in the game. Kittens Mittens over the last 4 or 5 minutes had accumulated the small little lead for getting just slightly more camps, getting those invades out, but with those 2 kills alone, the gold is now completely evened out and back to where it was at the beginning of the game.
And the thing that hurts over here, being an ADC player, is off of that first back, being able to finish Iqbal is so big.
Yeah, dying without
isn't able to do it, and that's going to be so much of a heavy player.
Oh,
we do see Snicks caught out.
Both ults coming out. Ooh, Dento's actually 1 HP, is going to fall here. Lanky's ult is forced out. Oh, but the Ares ult is going to get immuned out. Good counterplay from Kittens Mittens coming in after the fact. Snicks just collapsed on immediately, but that ult gave him enough time for the rest of his team to show face and help him out here.
A lot
Great
of
chains
good
coming in from
chains
Ares. Yeah,
coming from
lucky,
Lucky.
lucky landing these chains all game, definitely a good sign. But
And it on the side of Far Out, you have to respect what they were able to do across this map so far. They end up getting kills in all 3 lanes. And
absolutely,
one of those kills only had a trade. And if I'm Far Out, I'm comfortable with making the trade to set the Morgan Le Fay back and letting Dento just do whatever he needs to do. Dento currently sitting at 1-1-1, and Morgan Le Fay falling behind in comparison to the Baba Yaga. Now, I do think Baba Yaga is one of the only gods that can really go toe to toe with Morgan Le Fay's just exponential damage across the game.
sheer damage output, absolutely.
I I like the strategy. Just all in dive this Morgan Le Fay. Set her as far behind as you can.
I agree, and especially with Baba Yaga picking up a stacking item, Morgan Le Fay not having that. I mean, Baba Yaga's just ages like a fine wine, only gets more potent as the game goes on. But the same could be said about Morgan Le Fay. Not like Morgan Le Fay is ever really feeling that bad, but I do like the commitment just coming out and Far Out overall. Every time they're going for these calls, they are not being passive about it whatsoever. They're 100% committing. Every time they do anything, all the alts are flying out. They're making sure to just pin it to 100%. And it most of the time it's working out. Right there, I think Morgan Le Fay's ult got a ton of value there. She lived for far longer than I expected her to, almost solely because of the healing that comes off of that Morgan Le Fay ult.
Agreed. And kind of heading into the overall scope of this game, I do want to see a little bit more of a prioritization, at least in this early game, of these Scorpions on either side. Open those big neutral objectives up earlier. And if you're on the side of Kittens with Mittens, I think that actually benefits you. I think that if you're able to sneak away a couple of the things in this game, especially a Scorpion, like right now, you know that Panda's just backed. You know where the players are in mid. If they send one other person, or even if Raymond just wants to solo this Scorpion, he has the ability to do it. And I want to see just those little aggressive plays coming out from them. Now he will go for the steal of the Alpha Harpy here, which I do enjoy, but I would have liked to see a kind of a transition over into that Scorpion just to put that neutral objective on the map.
It's nice to get those big objectives on the map. Definitely just having the op face anything is to occur that goes in your favor. Raymond gonna get a little bit chased out. Panda's not able to find too much damage. A little bit of a grouping in mid, actually. There is gonna be some pressure and fights, but also in the ADC, Dento picking up a kill on Snicks, and Panda's fully committing onto Raymond. Raymond going to have his beads forced out and get a little bit pushed out there. But Panda's able to find the kill regardless. Great solo kill coming there. And as I said, Snicks also falling behind. They are doing a great job of locking down this Morgan and making her not play the game.
And with that, I think the only thing that it comes from is just experience. I don't know if Far Out just has this overall mentality of we treat this like any other mage, just go, just dive, just go. And
They
if
are
that is
not
the mentality, it is perfect because I do know a decent amount of players that when Morgan Le Fay is picked, you have that mentality of, oh, it's Morgan Le Fay. She does damage, and you kind of get that mentality of being scared. But Far Out, zero hesitation throughout the board, and I really do enjoy it.
absolutely. It is great that they are just it in a good sense, but almost being disrespectful in the pick, just saying you're Morgan Le Fay, but I don't care that you're Morgan Le Fay. We're just gonna dive you anyway, and it's a great thing to do. I mean, setting Morgan Le Fay behind early, but there is going to be a grouping on the left side. Ares ult's going to force out the beads. A lot of damage coming out, but a great pillar and a stun. But Raymond is actually going to be low. Artemer going into the ult. Lucky 1 HP. He is going to bot down, but Raymond's going to fall. Pandas is going to obliterate Artemer for landing on top of him. Lanky going to chase out Snicks. And it should just be a free Scorpion, and it was looking convincing at the beginning for Kittens Mittens. They show that early pressure, or they show that face over in the left lane, but just a great counter collapse from Far Out is able to secure 3 kills and put them in a really good spot here.
Yeah, in that, Raymond rotates over just to help the rest of his team, lands a beautiful impale, but then is just left in no man's land, right? Left to fight and fend for himself. Now, we did see Ormer go up into that ult to try and give his carry a little bit of support, lands and immediately gets blown up by this Danzaburo. Danzaburo already sitting at level 12 on par with his mid and solo lane, and the XP difference now, yeah, as Phoenix has a beautiful transition at about 2,000, and we're really seeing that in the carries of Far Out.
Get a pick on Pandas. I do like this play. He is going to get chained, push out a little bit from the 2 there, but he has no mana, but they're not able to get much more off of that. A good chain, but just not enough damage to follow up. I like the idea. I was just about to highlight. Danzabora from ahead feels so oppressive. He is definitely one of the premier gods of feeling terrible from behind and amazing from ahead, as well as on her. So this was a very volatile lane to begin with because neither of those gods want to get behind, and both of them feel so good from ahead. And now at a 3-level lead, he's just going to decide to rocket, and he doesn't care about the 2v1. Raymond's going to have his beats forced out, the leap brought out. He's just going to dive right in the tower, picks up that kill, great auto to finish that one out. Lucky is going to get some chains in there, the ult forced out. But neither of them are able to. Home sweet home going to knock him up, and he's going to die on the back end of that. Oh no. Kittens with Mittens trying their best, creating plays here, but it's just not turning out. As the ults come in, and it's just not able to find a lot. And with those 2 picks, Gold Fury's wide open along with this out-of-combat healing. Just not more much to be said. I mean,
So
Panda's just showing no fear, no hesitation, comes in right away with that rocket, gets that solo kill so fast and early into that, and then they try to use the Ares ult, they try to use the Rat ult, but this is going to be a close one, but he is under T2 with a Draugr, probably won't be able to get the ending kill there. Man, but they're actually Far Out showing a 4-man rotation on this right side. Snooze is going to be forced to push out, but Baba Yaga is doing so much damage. Where does Snooze's health bar go? He is getting obliterated. In goes the Guan Yu. The stun is good, but there is nothing you can do against 4 members. Fire Giant Scorp now is going to be fall, and this is slowly but surely becoming quite the snowball. 11-1 at 14 minutes. Already a 4K gold lead coming out. And this is looking oppressive.
I like the idea coming out from Kittens with Mittens, just trying to all in Pandas. I love it. But if you have that mentality, you need to have it across the board. We saw a little bit of hesitation from Raymond when Pandas had 0 mana over there with the early rotation from Ares. I would have liked to see him just pull the trigger, just hard dive it, hard commit it, because there really is no negative side. Either he continues to just snowball and get ahead.
Going to come out, but it doesn't look like he's gonna care. Pandas actually went in. Okay, so he tripped them out entirely. Even I didn't expect that he was gonna go there, but he actually goes forward into his team, and then he uses the rocket to get away once he has a safe distance on them. Yamoja ult is going to come out. Unfortunately, a little bit off the mark. Members were already outside. Not too much more is gonna come of that, but they're still trying to create pressure, and I still do like that. Kittens with Mittens, kind of similar to last game, they are down, but they're still attempting to swing. They're not letting the fact that they're behind stop them from doing anything. But with the amount of deficit, even though their attempts are certainly, you know, they're good attempts. It's what you want to be doing, but they're just not able to find a lot based on the fact that how far behind they are at this point. And man, I understand what they want. They want to put Pandas down because this man is fed. This man is fed. He is terrifying. He is 3 levels up. He is level 16. As soon as it gets to these team fight stages, he is going to be an absolute menace, but they just haven't been able to lock him down and kill him yet. And they're putting so much resources, so much time, so much priority on the map, and when you keep trying and you keep trying and it's not working and it's not working, that's just gotta feel bad.
You know, rotating into these late game team fights, if we're able to get to level 20s across the board, Danzaburo is what I like to call a 3-ability hunter. In the middle of team fights, you have 3 abilities. On her, a 4-ability hunter, a lot like Cupid in that regard, where you can use that ult at any stage throughout the team fight and have it feel comfy. And we see a blink in into mid lane dash in. Home Sweet Home is used to create pressure.
Rat going to go into ult almost just to get out. He blinks in, forces out the ult. But he is hovering around, but I don't think he has much damage he can bring here. Panda's actually in the background, going to have his ult forced out. He is going to ride the rocket around. He's looking. But the Emoji ult comes out. Understar bursts it down, almost immediately evaporated. Lucky, though, also going to fall on the other side. Guan Yu coming in, causing a lot of slows, gets Nyx down, and causes the stun. 1 HP, he is going to fall down. Ortimer on top of Lanky. Lanky low, but Raymond able to pick up the kill on the back end of that. Snooze also caused a lot of chaos in the background. Dento now 1 HP. Panda's just firing off these autos, though. And that's actually a very good fight for Kittens with Mittens, considering how far down they are on the board. The trade 2 for 2. Raymond actually going to find a great pillar stun. Snooze going to cause a lot of chaos here, but Guan Yu heal's going to come out. Raymond just evaporates from Pandas and Krojiro. And now that good fight is starting to turn a little bit slightly worse, and that out-of-combat healing coming into play there.
Left click go burr.
Left click do go burr as Pandas just continues to stuff this dominance.
6-0-4 on the Raccoon. Pandas doing an amazing job. And with that, Kittens with Mittens had the perfect game plan going into that. They got the early kill. They were taking the team fight. Yes, it's trades, but at this point, you're kind of looking for trades. You're not looking for a clean sweep team fight. You're looking to take off the heaviest hitters on the board, and you're just looking for those little micro plays going into it. They just got outplayed at the tail end of that team fight. Pandas is doing so much damage and just has the presence with him that you have to be wary.
And it wasn't even that bad. Like, even at the last fight, it wasn't looking too bad. As soon as Raymond hit that pillar stun, I was thinking that might be a good fight, and they might be able to pick up Pandas, but as soon as the Guan Yu heal comes out, as soon as Pandas 2 comes out, he gets all that healing back. But far out on this objective, pretty much able to secure it uncontested entirely. They're actually going to look to surge forward as they do have such a lead, but that fear is going to hit 3, force them off of that, and they're just going to go right towards this Pyromancer Fire Giant Pit. Steamrolling right through. Snooze a little bit caught out. They are going to use the Emoji ult to go out. Rat is in ult here, looking on the top thing. He has a huge knockup here. Actually hits 4. That is a ton of damage. And Ares ult grabs everybody. Dento is going to be forced in, but he pops the Winds of Shamash, making sure not much more comes of it. But he is going to get poked out. Low health bars across far out. And they are going to disengage a little bit here. Make sure to get their healing out. But this is now a 5v4 as a blink in from the Rat onto Understar. Snooze going to cause a lot of damage too. There are low health bars. This is a good fight. They get a second kill and a shutdown on Pandas. I cannot even imagine how much gold my man just got from shutting him down. And on Morgan Le Fay, that feels terrible for Far Out, but that feels great for Kittens. Morgan Le Fay is probably the one you want on your team the most to get that shutdown. And with that amount of gold, Pyromancer going to be wide open. Maybe just a bit of overextension from Far Out after getting that objective. They might have just wanted to take that gold, take that presence back, and then look to get into the Fire Giant. Because maybe Kittens of Mittens get the Pyro, but now a good attempt of a steal by Lanky. But unfortunately not able to pick it up. But yeah, now Panda's the shutdown. Just a great team fight from Kittens of Mittens.
Highest level in the game over here on Morgan Le Fay. We were saying it earlier that how good Far Out was at just applying pressure to this character, but then they lost it. They needed to keep it up. You can't allow this Morgan Le Fay just to free cast. And in that last fight, the only 2 kills that happen solely go onto this Morgan Le Fay. The ult comes out, is able to secure, if I'm not mistaken, is Dento on the back end there, and then just the Sigil Mastery does so much damage, pretty much drops Pandas from quarter health to 0 by itself.
Huge shout out to both Ortimer and Lucky, because I'm pretty sure both, I think Ortimer hit a 4-man ult, and then Lucky immediately follows it up with a 5-man ult. That pretty much was the ticket to success there. when you're hitting alts that big, it doesn't matter how far behind you are. If your Ares is pulling 5, if your Rat's hitting 4, that's just looking like a good team fight for you. So great job to find those opportunities. Far out just a bit too grouped up, a bit too tight together, and now they're almost back in this game. I mean, the gold lead has only went to 2K. Krojiro is actually getting caught out here. The Guan Yu ult going to be forced, but that should be about it. Going to use the stun there, but they should be relatively safe on that end. But Kittens with Mittens is actually looking good here. The ult is going to come out from both Lucky and Understar, but Krojiro dropped down to almost no HP. Rat should probably land down on top of him, and he is going to fall here. Another good fight from Kittens with Mittens. The Understar is unable to get out here. Lanky picks up a kill on Ortimer, and as I say that, Caster's Curse Understar is actually fine, going to be able to live this one. Snicks takes a lot of damage. Panda's actually caught out here. He is going to Aegis. He is going to use his relics. He might get out, but nope, he is going to get blinked on. Snicks is going to pick up that kill. And now they are all gets... Oh, Lanky with the fantastic 2, and the 1 gets lucky as well. Lanky busting out this team fight Baba and just completely turns this around from far out. What was looking like just an amazing fight from Kittens with Mittens is now turned to even for Lanky just doing so much damage from these Baba abilities.
I agree. Lanky has been, in my opinion, the standout of these last 2 games. We know what Pandas is capable of. The man is probably in the top echelon of ADCs in this league right now. But Lanky, man, piloting this Baba Yaga in the back-to-back games, beautiful play coming from him. And like I said earlier, I don't know if looking for a clean sweep is what this Kittens with Mittens team really is looking for. I think they're looking for trades, even at this stage of the game, to try and get Ormer to level 20, to try and help get Raymond up to that level 20 mark as well. I mean, we're seeing it here. The trades have been working for them, and the picks that they're able to get is just evening this game out. And I think it's a beautiful mindset coming into it. You know that you're behind, and getting those trades in is super beneficial to them.
I completely agree. Even though, obviously, Lanky able to make out those standout plays and get those kills in the back, and that fight overall is just positive for Kittens with Mittens, and pretty much just for what she said, the levels. They were just behind coming into that fight, and when you get an even trade from behind, that's a 1 trade for you. So getting these fights so consistently is good, and now Understar actually a level behind, Dento a level behind, and Krojiro a level behind. Now they're effectively, they are ahead in XP and only slightly behind in gold, and these fights could be anyone's game now.
I do think that Kittens with Mittens needs to keep up with the mentality they have. Just these big team fight ults, as we do see a jump in from Dento. Ares ult in response on top of wins the smash. River's Rebuke also used, but in the back we do see Krojiro going deep.
Lanky gets that. Raymond is going to get obliterated by Lanky. Mortimer is going to drop down, but unable to do much. Fantastic job by Krojiro and Lanky, just shredding down that Morgan Le Fay. Soon to go in all, and a fantastic 3 is going to lock out Snooze. Snooze is going to fall here. Great team fight coming from far out there.
And the big thing there was just the dive onto Morgan. Morgan is the first one to fall in that fight. And
absolutely
none of that sigil mastery damage on top of multiple players. It was pretty much on the back foot the entire way through. Krojiro able to dive superbly, and it was a beautiful fight from far out. They played that super well.
Absolutely, and I love that mentality, because Morgan Le Fay was a key component in those last 2 team fights that, while technically we're even, were actually in Kittens with Mittens' favor due to the state of the game. And that's just a fantastic mentality switch. They realize this Morgan Le Fay is a really big problem. We have to keep doing what we were doing in this early game and just not respect it. Just run it down, kill her, get her out of the fight immediately. Raymond's only level 18, so when you take Snicks out of the fight, they don't have that much damage left over that they can do. Also, Rad in the late game, while obviously a very potent god, he's not bumping out a ton of damage here. Ardio fantastic in boxing and creating chaos, but also not a ton of damage. So when almost all of their damage is centralized in that piece, making sure to get that out immediately. As soon as he was out of the field, there was no real way they could kill Far Out anymore, and they just run them down and make sure to pick up those kills.
If I'm on the side of Far Out, they made the perfect decision. Krojiro is really the only person that can dive this Morgan Le Fay without consequence. I mean, he's so tanky that that cavalry charge is so good going into the Morgan Le Fay because a lot of her self heal pretty much relies on the fact that you're just walking at her. But if you're CC immune while you're walking at her, you can't do anything about it. And we do see a siege on this left-hand side Phoenix by this Far Out squad. Can they get it?
And from Snooze, he is going to cause a lot of damage. Mortimer going to ult in the backline. The Phoenix is low, however, they are deep down in there. Snick's going to get taken out by Dento. Once again, priority showing on top of that. Dento going to get picked up in return, but the Phoenix is dropped. Snooze is going to fall. Krojiro is going to fall. Now a 3v3 Raymond and Ortimer are able to get back into the base, but Far Out did get what they came there for. The Phoenix has fallen, and we see the exact same thing again. That they dive in deep, they get in there, and the first person to fall is once again Snicks. They are putting so much priority on this Morgan Le Fay, and I can't love it enough. It's exactly what they need to be doing.
I agree. But, and with the kittens with mittens mentality going into these fights with those trades, it's not going to work at this page of the game. Everybody's pretty much level 20
here. It looks like Far Out going right back in. Lucky is going to get poked down the half, but not a ton more is going to come that. Kittens with mittens though, I mean, they did get the return kills. It certainly could have been a game ender if they weren't, so it wasn't terrible. The Phoenix does fall. They got 2 people that no longer have that FG buff. But what you were saying earlier with Guan Yu into Morgan Le Fay, I completely agree. That god's just got to be a hard counter into the late game because, as you said, all Morgan can do, she can't run away, so she can only A, go CC immune, or B, try to CC, and you can't. Neither of those really works against Cavalry Charge. The CC immunity, it does a little bit, but I'm pretty sure Cavalry Charge just lasts longer than Morgan Le Fay ult does, so in that first fight, as soon as Morgan Le Fay got out of that ult, immediately he used the stun off the Cavalry Charge to get her, and as well as Dento, he drops on top of him, pops that Winds of Shamash in that Phoenix fight, and does a ton of damage on top of him. It's just great priority.
With that, being a squishy player myself, Warriors are the most busted class in this entire game. Don't at me. So when it comes to just a straight up Warrior versus Mage fight, my money is on the Warrior no matter what actual picks are used. And Guan Yu, man, that Talu Assault, the buff it got, which is the base damage being raised, the protections it does shred just in general, going into an already squishy player like a Morgan Le Fay, shredding all protections, pretty much doing true damage at the end of that Talu Assault, mixed with charge is just too much for Snicks to be able to fight just by himself.
Talu Assault, knockup immune, so the only way that she can stop that ability from just going on top of her is to throw out her one, and that does take a little bit of channel time to land down, so the damage is already done by that point.
Yeah,
but we're going to see a grouping over by this Fire Giant, and just look at the ward coverage from from Far Out. They have wards everywhere. As they come within a 10-mile radius, they are going to get caught out. And look at that, Ortimer trying to stop these wards, but a collapse is going to come out. Understar is almost able to lock out Snooze. Ortimer going to have to use the blink just to disengage, and just as I was talking about the wards, they came into play. They try to get rid of some of the wards from Kittens with Mittens, and they immediately collapse on top and force out both relics from the jungler, and now he's looking very vulnerable coming into this next Fire Giant fight.
Now, they do have an ultimate advantage on the side of Kittens with Mittens. That River's Rebuke was used, and we'll see if that plays a part into it, because Rattle still up. You still have Lucky with his ult in order to burn those beads that are on the side of Far Out. So we'll see what the game plan is here for Kittens with Mittens going into this enhanced Fire Giant fight. Will they be able to actually make a stand and pull this off? Well, I think this fight really determines the state of the game right now. I think this is either Kittens with Mittens' lifeline or it's their demise.
Absolutely. With EFG being on the table, I can't help but imagine anything but whoever gets this is going to win. But Ortimer is going to get kicked in the background, all going to be forced out. He is 1 HP. He is effectively outside of this fight. But Dento also low. Ortimer going to drop him. Panda's in the rain. Rockets in, though, going to eviscerate Raymond. Snicks putting out a lot of damage, but he's now going to get locked out. Panda's both relics forced out, but is barely going to live. Lanky just obliterates Ortimer, and Dento going to pick up Snicks. That's going to be EFG, and now they are in a very, very comfy spot to get this EFG and end this game.
I would agree with you. I think this is just crossing the I's and dotting the T's. I know I said it wrong. Don't at me. But
I am a fan of crossing my eyes, but
yeah, agreed.
they're just going to push it down the right lane, which is absolutely the call. 30 seconds down, they at least get a Phoenix, if not the game.
Now,
That's
if
just... I'll continue.
No, Phoenix, I hate you. But with that, isn't crossing an I making it a T and dotting a T making it an I? Big brain.
I cannot comment on that. My brain is not that big. However, we'd have this grouping on the Titan, and it's just going to be the end of the game. Nothing you can really do about that. And just like that fight starts with Ortimer gets a little bit deep in there, but because of that engagement that they took a little bit earlier, he doesn't have relics. So as soon as he gets pushed by Gilgamesh, there's nothing he can do. He's forced to pop his ult. And then as soon as he knows that the jungle's out of the fight, Panda's in the raid, just rockets in, no hesitation, no fear, just goes right on top of Raymond there.
Now, I do think that if they are able to pick up Pandas in the back set of that, I think that alters the end of the game a little bit. You don't have that big EFG backdoor damage on top of these objectives that you would normally have. But with that being said, Far Out played those two games immaculately. They came in with a game plan, especially against this Morgan Le Fay. Like you were saying, zero fear into this pick. It was a beautiful mindset coming out from Far Out. Krojiro basically just didn't give a single word I can't say on stream. Cavalry charge, just everything going in to Snicks on top of this Morgan Le Fay. Beautiful play against the pick. It is the first time that we've been able to see it in our Valhalla League so far since the last update. And I mean, credit to Kittens with Mittens, man. They had a couple of fights in there where it did look very good for them. Snicks did actually do a decent job on this Morgan Le Fay pick. I just think Far Out came the stronger mental team.
Exactly. And in all fairness, yeah, I think the Morgan Le Fay was actually super effective. I mean, when it comes to the point where your game plan is, well, if we just kill this person, we win these fights, and obviously that person's doing a lot, and Sticks certainly was. I mean, they were down 1-11 at one point, but they came out with 2 even fights to put them back into the game. They showed resistance. They were down super far early. They came back a little bit, but Far Out just reconvened, realized what their game plan needed to be, and got in there. And you mentioned it in the middle of the game, and I'll mention it again. Lanky, man, on that Baba Yaga, both of these games, he looked fantastic. 9-1 and 10 to end the set.
Was probably the sole reason Kittens with Mittens didn't have a lead going into that late game. We saw that double kill in the team fight right around about, I want to say 23 minutes. And just picking up that double kill just changed the entire course of probably what that game was going in the direction of. Kittens with Mittens was fighting back into that. And Lanky, just beautiful play, sitting at the 9-1 and 10. Actually right on up there with Pandas. Those two carries did so much work in these last 2 games, and it was beautiful to watch. It was just really good, solid play from Far Out.
Absolutely. In that set in general, the mid and the carry just really did so much work. And I also got to give a huge shout out to Understar. He found a lot of these big ultimates, a lot of these big threes, so much lockdown. I guess I just got to compliment all of them. Everybody on Far Out, they worked as a unit. They did the jobs that they needed to do. There was definitely, I feel like Pandas in game 1 did kind of steal the show, just getting solo kill after solo kill, causing so much over there, as well as in the early game of this one. His lane dominance was insane, but as soon as it came into these team fights, everybody in Far Out did what they needed to do. Still shout outs to Kittens with Mittens being able to operate from behind. When you get behind, especially in a comp set, it feels so oppressive. You feel like you're getting suffocated, and I'm very impressed by the amount of work that they were able to do in not letting themselves just keel over and die, but creating counterplay on the map. but it's just not enough when a team comes in with such a good game plan, such a good comp idea, and just executes on it so well.
I 100% agreed. I have nothing to add to that. But I got one more question for you, and I'll throw Phoenix into the mix with this as well. MVP of this set, who you got?
Ooh, I'm really stuck
Give me a-
between Pandas and Lanky here. I guess I'm gonna give a divided answer, which is kind of a cop out, I know, but I'm gonna have to. When it comes to the team fights, I'm gonna have to give it to Lanky. When it comes to the early game dominance, I'm gonna have to give it to Pandas. Pandas in lane look so good, got so many solo kills, just showed no hesitation and no fear. And as soon as these team fights came around, Lanky just bumped out so much damage.
I think my shining star right now is Lanky. He did pilot the same god in both games, looked immaculate. I think Lanky was the sole reason Kittens with Mittens didn't go into that late game with a lead, with a fire giant, with just multiple structures taken off of the board. I think Lanky is my shining star today.
Absolutely, he played phenomenal. Do you have anything to add to that, Phoenix? Or
Massive Baba Yaga game coming out of the Mr. Mid Lane and on the side of Far Out. Man is a legend.
lane-
God bless.
And
the
he
mid
built your
laner
favorite
gives
item.
it to the mid laner.
And
Nothing
he
to be
built Divine
surprised
Ruin.
about
Let's
there.
go, baby.
And he built Divine Ruin. Obviously, the Divine Ruin alone gives Lanky the MVP.
The earlier you divide by Divine, the better chance you have of winning the game. I don't make the rules.
But
So Blubber Ducky,
fantastic.
the
Keep going.
Blubber Ducky, the set did just end. Kittens with Mittens, unfortunate, not able to pull out the W. Far Out wins 2-0 in this Odin set. And it was our early game today in a 2-0 sweep. And you were about to say something there, Mr. Desto. You got anything else to add before we head out on the cast today?
Nope, nothing more to add. I was just going to close it out, say thank you to everybody that tuned in. Good job on both teams. That was a fantastic set. Very fun to watch. I am Nesto the Great. I'm joined here by Crownhound and Phoenix. And
Hi.
thank you, everybody, for watching. It was a lot of fun, and we have more Valhalla game action coming in later today, so be sure not to miss out on that. Thank you for tuning in, and goodbye.